Hi, I'm Rusty Allen, Education and Outreach Coordinator for North Haven Gardens, and in this video we're going to cover for you cutback and pruning of perennials for spring. Pruning back plants in spring, late winter, early spring, is a very important task because we're getting ready for the new growth to show. Because very soon this new growth is going to come up through here. It's going to be nice and pretty and green. And if we still have all of this brown tissue and brown leaves on top, it's not going to look pretty having brown and green together. So this is your one time, especially in the case of something like variety, to get it cut back and get that new flush of green growth that's going to last you through the rest of the year. Now we have to distinguish the kinds of plants we're talking about. We're talking about those true perennials that have been there for a while. They've been established in 2 to 3 years. And at that point, we can start doing some cutting back. So in the types of perennials we're looking at to cut back, the evergreen ones, like this rosemary here, is not usually cut back at all this time of year. There's not usually any kind of damage that's very coldly fine. But other perennials, like grasses, are the ones that will have this brown growth from the previous cold that we've had in November, December, and January. And these are definitely cut back. Here's another really good example of a type of plant that's going to have maybe a little damage, but it's not bad. And this is horse herb. This is a wonderful native Texas ground cover with beautiful little small yellow flowers come summer. But sometimes in this time of year, it may have a little cold damage. That's what you can see on the outside from this previous winter. And then underneath, you can start to see some of the new growth coming out. You would just prune this part off, not the rest of it, so it has a chance to start growing. It's inland sea oats. This is a native Texas grass. This one you can very easily see what I'd be cutting. If I had my pruners right now, I would be cutting this upper part. This is the old previous year's growth, and here's the new lush growth getting ready to come out for spring. We'll cut this off and leave the rest. Another type of plant that you may encounter are these crown forming plants. Plants like this that have a common growing point. And these kinds of plants are going to do this kind of thing. You're going to have a little bit of damage up top, they may be a little green, and then again underneath at the very center is some of the new growth. So this particular one, this is Aquilegia, is going to start coming out from here. So we don't want to cut into that crown. You want to cut just the upper part. So we're going to typically gather the upper parts of something like this laripe and then cut here. These are cut back in a similar way to the laripe, the ponytail cut, as I sometimes call it. We grab the top and cut here because this new growth is going to be coming out at the base. Here are two more good examples of what it's going to look like in late winter, early spring for some plants that are showing color. They're evergreen perennials to a degree, all depends upon how cold it gets. And you may be wondering about pruning them back. One of the most showy ones you'll ever see is going to be Lenten Roses or the Hellebores. They're flowering right now in late winter, early spring, and the flowers rise above beautiful evergreen foliage. And really, there's no pruning at all that's going to be required. You may have one damaged leaf here and there, you could remove those, but most of the time, probably no problem. Another plant that I might be having to cover and take care of for pruning is going to be the coral bells or Heuchera, with their little stems rising up of small coral bell-shaped flowers above beautiful leaves of all different kinds of colors, from lime, yellow greens to dark burgundies. And these leaves are a little bit more sensitive to cold. So I would protect them and the flowers with frost cloth, and it may get a little damage here. But these are what we call true perennials, in that this top part, all of this will typically go away sometimes, and then the plant will come back from the roots. But again, protecting it a little bit with frost cloth, depending upon how cold it gets, you'll protect these leaves and you'll be able to enjoy this beautiful color in late winter, early spring. Now here's some of those perennials that may not need cutting back at all, but I wanted you to see on something like this. This is just plain old English ivy. And English ivy, though dark green most of the year, will pick up this burgundy cast when it's gone through very cold temperatures. It's going to be fine. There's nothing really wrong with it. And as it starts to get warm, it'll go back to green again. Same thing on this Lysimachia or creeping Jenny. This is a popular one because she has this really bright green coloration. And then in the winter, it picks up again, this dark burgundy color. But not all plants are going to react to the cold the same. So some plants like this, if it gets really cold, and again, this is established and being in the ground for 2 to 3 years, it may freeze all the way back like a true perennial and then pop back up for you. This will happen especially in a container. Containers get 7 to 10 degrees colder and warmer than surrounding beds. So you'd have to watch something like that.